At the onset of the year of Aaron Judge, the Yankees offered him a 7-year, $213 million extension ahead of his looming free agency. We know this because, in an unorthodox move, Yankees GM Brian Cashman revealed the declined deal.
Trying to buy out 7 years of free agency at $30.5 million a year.
Why did he do it? To show that New York were really trying to retain Judge's services, or was it a ploy to turn Yankees fans against their star slugger? Either way, the Judge was none too pleased with their negotiations being made public, stating it was a private matter.
At this time.
Yeah, I don't like talking numbers. I like to keep that private. It's something, I kind of felt like it was private between my team and the Yankees.
With the 2022 season underway, he said, "I got a job to do on the field, and I gotta shift my focus to that now and go play some ball." And boy, did he. The only rivalry in baseball greater than Red Sox versus Yankees is MLB umpires versus Aaron Judge's strike zone. Because he stands at a towering 6'7", his knees are simply a little bit higher than the average MLB hitter's knees, leading to over 200 more called strikes toward the bottom of the zone than expected since Judge's 2017 rookie campaign. In fact, the Yankee slugger has occasionally hiked up his socks mid-game, not because he's a kawaii anime schoolgirl, but in an attempt to better frame his own zone. During a May series versus the Texas Rangers, home plate umpires combined to make 5 low strike calls on Judge. And with the difference between starting an at-bat at 1-0 versus 0-1 being the same as the difference between hitting like Craig Biggio versus Virgil Stallcup, it's no surprise all 5 affected plate appearances ended in outs. The miracle is that Judge somehow waited until the 5th strike call before he calmly explained his perspective. "You can't do that, you can't do that." That's what Aaron Boone sounds like, right? Yet, in the very next game, Judge went up to the plate in the bottom of the 9th, down 2 runs with 2 runners on, and did this.
Drill deep to left field. There it goes! See ya! There's his walk-off home run, and the Yankees have come back to win it. 6-5.
Other than producing the most pivotal win probability added swing of the Yankees season, Judge did something that greatly characterized his 2022 triumph. He crushed a slider. In 2022, MLB pitchers threw 46% more sliders than they did in 2015. The increase in slider usage has come at the expense of the fastball, as the analytical movement has necessitated an adjustment in league-wide pitch mix. In Judge's 2017 rookie season, when he fell just short of MVP, he hit .161 with an OPS below 600 versus sliders. In 2022, he was pretty darn good, to say the least. In fact, StatCast rated Judge as being worth 29 runs above average alone versus the slider, by far the most impressive performance they've tracked versus that particular pitch. He crushed more sliders than Daniel Vogelbach at Crystal. Despite this, the overall first half numbers for Judge in 2022 were arguably worse than his 2017 rookie explosion. The only area that saw an improvement was his raw home run total. At the All-Star break, Judge was having an excellent year, one befitting of an AL MVP candidate. And his potential MVP candidacy was bolstered by his team's success, as the Bronx Bombers, with a 64-28 record, were on pace for 113 wins. But it wasn't until the second half that 2022 truly became the year of Judge. The cruel irony of Aaron Judge's 2022 season is that his best stretch coincided with his team's worst. In the 50 games following the All-Star break, most of the Bronx Bombers turned into the Bronx Toddlers as they cried, soiled their diapers, and failed to walk. Yeah, that's right, I make $2,000 on Patreon to write this garbage. Judge proved to be the exception to the rule. While his team went 22-28, he reached base safely in half his plate appearances, hit 24 home runs, and slugged well over 800. A glimpse at the Yankees' offensive numbers during their skid pegged them as close to the league norms. They had a 99 WRC+, a park-adjusted, era-adjusted stat where 100 is always average. But if Judge was removed from the equation, they were suddenly the 29th best team by on-base percentage and slugging, trailing only the Miami Marlins. Of the 207 runs scored by the Yankees in this stretch, Judge drove in or scored over a third of them, despite making up just 1/9 of the lineup. I believe it was Socrates who, after weeks of contemplation, opined that ball go boom. The Athenians sentenced him to death soon after. Guess they preferred small ball. Judge continued the Socratic tradition by absolutely obliterating his own 2017 record for StatCast barrels in a season. The batted ball most likely to result in a home run is a pulled fly ball. Around the league, 37% of all pulled fly balls left the park in 2022, independent of exit velocity. In this regard, Judge completely transformed his batted ball distribution from just a year prior. In 2021, he pulled just 16 fly balls. In 2022, he had 44, nearly tripling his previous rate. It's easy to tell you that Judge pulled a lot more fly balls, and it's hard to tell you that I'm not your real dad. But the real question is simply, how? We know the change in outcomes for Judge, but what of the change in process? Like the most elite baseballing talents, the answer is usually a subtle adjustment rather than a complete overhaul. Rob Refsnyder, once a teammate of Judge, noted that Judge moved his hands back in front of his face, better mirroring the setup from his 2017 rookie breakout. I wish I could say Aaron Judge hiked up a mountain in Asia, seeking a monk to guide him to true hitting enlightenment, but baseball is a game of micro-adjustments, and the already terrific slugger made the right tweaks to unlock a new level. On September 18th, with the Yankees emerging from their slump, Judge clubbed 2 homers, number 58 and number 59 respectively, in a 12-8 win over the Brewers. The American League record, set by Roger Maris Jr.'s dad with 61, was well in sight. He didn't wait long for number 60. In the very next game, down by 4 in the bottom of the 9th, Judge teed off on Will Crowe of the Pirates. Fans in the Bronx were treated not just to the milestone home run, but also a walk-off grand slam by Giancarlo Stanton, who himself settled for 59 in his NL MVP season 5 years prior. Did I mention he was doing this as a center fielder? Judge had long been one of the best defensive corner outfielders in the league, but he started the majority of his games in center before a healthy Harrison Bader took over during the last couple weeks of the season. Judge's OPS as a center fielder was the 3rd highest in MLB history, trailing only the absolute peak of Mickey Mantle's career. Not to mention the other names on this list. With 3 homers in his last 2 games, 14 in his last 25, and 30 in his last 58, it seemed like Judge was due to rocket past Maris at a moment's notice. But as the prospect of a record-breaking season became all too real, the home run pace slowed to a crawl. The prevailing narrative was that pitchers, not wanting to be in YouTube compilations for the rest of their lives, were gutless cowards who wouldn't give Judge anything to hit. Now, if you went purely by balls and strikes according to StatCast, Judge's zone rate while he was chasing 61 and 62 was right in line with his season average. But if you narrow it down to pitches well out of the zone, there was some caution being exercised. The most impressive aspect of this final stretch is how Judge never pressed. Despite all the pressure in the world, and also Canada, I don't consider Canada part of the world, he just wouldn't chase. On September 27th, he went jaywalking 4 times in Toronto. There's the $2,000, concluding a 7-game homerless stretch where he reached base safely 55% of the time. And then, the very next day,
and the 3-2. Throw deep to left field. See ya! He's done it! Number 61!
Number 61. Believe it or not, the fan who just missed the milestone baseball was interfered with by a man named Frankie Lasagna. I drop the balla, pepperoni. Earlier today, I made a comment that I now realize was italophobic. This isn't me. This doesn't represent who I am. A homerless 3-game homestand versus the Orioles meant that the race for 62 would come down to the final series of the season. The Yankees traveled to Arlington to take on the Rangers. When Judge hit a 314-foot flyout off John Gray in Game 160, it was his first fly ball in nearly a week. Things were looking bleak. But then, to lead off Game 161, Number 62. Believe it or not, that gentleman jumping down for the potential ricochet is named Joey Ravioli. I pride myself and think of myself as a man of faith. 62. That's the most home runs in 121 years of American League history, and the most home runs hit by a major leaguer who didn't have to testify about their PED use. It's also nowhere near Barry Bonds' single-season record of 73 in 2001, back when Bonds had to deal with 16 more intentional walks than Judge, as well as the hitter-unfriendly confines in San Francisco. In fact, the Giants haven't had a 30-homer season since Bonds retired. The park factor discussion on Judge's end is overblown as well. Short porch and right be darned, Yankee Stadium has some deeper areas in center and left center, as evidenced by this 411-foot flyout versus the Red Sox in April that would have left 22 other MLB ballparks. Now, as for the baseball itself used during the home run chase, that's a story for a different day. What matters now is that Aaron Judge had the most valuable season in MLB history post-Barry Bonds. We may never see a run like 2001 to 2004 Barry Bonds ever again, but Judge got closer than everyone thanks to his 211 OPS+. The same goes for his monstrous 11.4 Fangraphs WAR, higher than any Trout, Betts, Pujols, or A-Rod season. That WAR total is aided by the completeness of his performance. Not only did Judge hit 62 home runs with a .311 batting average, .425 on base, and .686 slugging, he played plus defense in center and right according to StatCast outs above average, not to mention going 16 for 19 on stolen bases. Despite another historic Shohei Ohtani season, Judge captured 28 of a possible 30 first-place votes en route to AL MVP. Much was made of Judge's quest for the traditional Triple Crown. He of course led the American League in home runs and RBI, but fell short of the batting title by 5 points thanks to Minnesota's Luis Arraez. To his credit, Judge won both the sabermetric Triple Crown by leading MLB in on-base percentage, OPS+, and WAR, as well as the StatCast Triple Crown by topping the league in average exit velocity, barrel rate, and xwOBA. 2022 being the year of Judge was surprising in that the league-wide offensive environment was trending downward. It would have made far more sense for Judge to hit 62 ding-dongs in 2019, when home run rates were 30% higher. Instead, he was out-homered by Brett Gardner. When projecting a player's performance coming into the season, one industry practice is to consider their performance in percentiles. For example, Juan Soto had an excellent 2022 season by MLB standards, but a subpar season by his own. Based on his personal 50th percentile projections coming into this year, he had maybe a 20th percentile season. The joy of the year of Judge was seeing the freak slugger have a 95th or maybe even 99th percentile outcome. He put together a complete season that was dominant in every facet of the game. We no longer have to ask, what could Aaron Judge do if it all went right? It actually did, and the results were spectacular. He had a Barry Bondsian season, minus the baggage, in the ultimate bet-on-yourself walk year. 8 months after he turned down $213 million, the Yankees signed him to a record-breaking 9-year, $360 million deal. And why not? Even if it proves disastrous in the long run, they wouldn't really be the New York Yankees if his services weren't retained. There's plenty stacked against Judge's long-term future. Across MLB history, hitters 6'6" or taller haven't fared very well in their age 31 seasons or beyond. Judge is 6'7". Same goes for those 260 pounds or heavier. Judge is listed as 282. Yet, with all due respect, nobody on these lists had a season quite like the year of Judge. A big thank you to my newest patrons for supporting what I do. If you want to see your name here, head on over to patreon.com/foolishbaseball.